Coach, over the last week or so, there's been a ton of momentum and things with the Bulldog Initiative and the collective with Charlie Winfield, and I think they quadrupled in what was given last week alone. And I guess just with that, I think some of your coaches have kind of mentioned it as well, but how awesome is that support, and just I guess to keep that momentum going and people continue to contribute to the Bulldog Initiative. Just kind of what's your thoughts on that, and how important is it to keep that rolling?
Well, I think that's outstanding. I think that, of course, Charlie does a great job. He's a smart guy and knows a little about everything and is good at organizing things. But it really took off in a huge fashion, and I think there's a lot of energy around Mississippi State in our program, and the biggest way that thing is to harness it. And, that's a pretty good initial step. I think sometimes these things, you can have too many moving parts, too many people involved, and, the right guy at the top is a lot of times the best way to do it.
Coach, Will told us in postgame about the touchdown play there to end the game. It appeared to be a check, went from a passing play to running play. Kind of how does that work for you? How much autonomy do you give him there? Is it like a formational thing? And how often do you see that happen? How often do you encourage it?
He gets autonomy. He can check from goal line to goal line, and we teach that, and it's cultivated day one, so you have flexibility to attack and things like that. And then down there, they were kind of playing the game of, this many's in the tackle box, and the two guys on the edge sort of are. But really what they're planning to do is go 3-on-2 on the two receivers, so more vulnerable, to the run. And so, yeah, it's good.
Mike, you mentioned after the Alabama game that your receivers needed to work on their hands in the bye week that you guys had. I guess, what do you think of that group's performance against Auburn? I guess, how do you keep improving with 3 games left on the season?
I thought they improved. I don't think we're there yet. I think we got to keep getting better. We'd like to see that group be a little tougher group. We've got some skill, but just tough, gritty guys instead of a part of a fun little club. And, I'd love to see some guy that is determined to be the best receiver of that group, take the whole thing, control of it, and, have a burning desire to have more catches than everybody else and practice and play like that. And then others will have some example to follow. But, we need to do a better job of separating ourselves. Right now, we like to kind of cluster together.
Coach, number 1 ranked Georgia coming in this weekend. You have played and beaten top-ranked teams before. What does it take to beat the number 1 team in the country?
Don't get too caught up in it. Just focus on what you do, and have the discipline. And you got to, and the hardest thing I suppose is to get the message to everybody. It's one thing to say it, but everybody's got to believe and buy in. Just worry about what you do. Just worry about your job, but would be the best football player you can be, because the other guy's going to do whatever he does, which you don't necessarily have control over that, but you do have control over yourself, and so you want to control all the variables you can, and if you can, you put yourself in the best position to win.
Justin Robinson got the start against Auburn, had a few nice plays. What have you thought of his progression since he got here?
I think he's improving. They're playing leapfrog over each other right now. It'd be nice if they separated. If I were to pick one of the two today, it'd be Duck. But that's the thing. They just they just join hands and go in a circle, and then whenever the music stops, one's standing, the other's sitting down, and then you do it again, and they change places. I mean, no, I'd like to see somebody that really wants to beat somebody out.
Coach, Georgia's defense had an outstanding weekend against Tennessee. How do you plan to overcome what they can do? What have you seen from them so far?
Well, they're just talent. They're a real talented group, and they're aggressive. I think that'd be the best way to summarize summarize it. They're not complicated. They're good, good personnel, aggressive, keep it simple enough that everybody can go fast, and so that's what makes them tough.
Kind of along those lines, you mentioned after the Bama game, you felt like maybe some of your guys were fearful, I guess, of the Alabama logo on the other side, I guess. What do you say to the guys? I guess, how do you implement, that they're not afraid of seeing Georgia on the other side now?
Well, I hope we learn something. We'll find out,
Coach, a couple years ago, you guys went to Georgia, I think, with 43 players. You had COVID and the opt-outs and things like that. I mean, what do you remember about the preparation for that week? And also, the players, you had a lot of freshmen in there that game and kept you in the ball game. And what do you remember about that game and leading up to that ball game?
We had good preparation that week. The only tricky thing was you get a couple surprises on Thursday. You thought these guys were going and going to play, and now all of a sudden they're not. But I did think we had a pretty good week of preparation.
Coach Tulu had that 92-yard kickoff return. Are you surprised teams still kick it to him?
Oh, well, I am and I'm not. I mean, everybody says don't kick it to him, but when you structure your cover team and your kicker and all that, some of that's easier said than done, But and then they tried not to, and they got one in the middle. And we kind of fought for it and took off with it. And here's the thing, because he could easily had more than just the one, because, he's had a bunch of them that could have gone back, but for some mishap,
Coach, you've got a couple of former Mississippi State players on your staff, Tim Washington, Scott Lashley, Tavez Calhoun. How beneficial is it to have former players stay involved on your staff?
Well, I think it's good. I mean, there's a lot of natural enthusiasm, and not everybody says, well, they know their way around. Like, that's so complicated. It's not very complicated. But just the general enthusiasm around the program, and they kind of share the heartbeat of a guy that came here to begin with, grew up with it, and I think that translates, and I think it's something important to translate.
Coach, Georgia, obviously a great team. They're not ranked number one for nothing, but you guys had some success out there a couple years ago. How much does that help maybe not play the logo, but play the team, so maybe you don't have the issue that about having the intimidation factor, I guess, of playing the mystique of a team like that?
Well, I'm not sure. We'll see. But, they're a good quality team, and on their team in particular, not as much ours, on their team in particular, some of those guys weren't there for that game, so I'm not sure how much of an impact it'll have.
What have you thought of Stetson Bennett's performance this year, and I guess how do you game plan defensively to try to slow down that offense?
I think he's improved. I think he's kind of a tough, gritty guy, and I think he does a good job leading that unit and inspiring that unit.
Back on the NIL subject, the NCAA releasing the schools to have a little more freedom on this. Do you yourself keep track of that, or do you have staff members who monitor it, or what can a coach do during a season to stay alert to what's happening with NIL?
Yeah, yes, staff people keep an eye on it, and if something important surfaces, then they tell you. I mean, chasing that around every day is like an unworkable deal. I mean, it's just madness, and so you have to have somebody that keeps track of it. The only thing guaranteed is they're going to change it again, and then just follow it the best you can, and then eventually the dust settles, and they'll settle on some things for a while, and you try to identify that and react to that when that happens.